What is going on, everybody? This is the Eye Test Takes podcast. I'm your host, Logan Hill. Once again, we are back with another episode. This is episode 5, recapping week 5 of the NFL season. We're going to get into a slate of 5 games that I was able to watch this week. Last week, I was only able to get a few in, and it actually kind of stunk. I actually enjoy watching these games a whole lot. So I'm going to get right into the slate that we have up this week. We got Philadelphia versus Pittsburgh. Obviously, watched that game very closely because I'm a Eagles fan. Even though they lost, I'm pretty encouraged. I'll get to that in a little bit. We got Kansas City versus the Las Vegas Raiders. We got New York Giants versus the Dallas Cowboys. Seattle versus the Vikings. And the LA Chargers versus New Orleans Saints to finish off the day. So let me just jump kind of right into this. Obviously, the first game I watched this week was the 1 o'clock game, Pittsburgh versus the Philadelphia Eagles. And I'll be completely honest, it sounds weird, but I'm more encouraged by what the Eagles showed me on this past Sunday than I was in a winning effort against San Francisco last Sunday night. It really just came down to the fact that Wentz is continually looking better every single week, and it's starting to be a little bit more encouraging on the offensive side of the ball. And really, the defense just let us down in this game. The Eagles' defense was very leaky. Once again, our linebackers and safeties are getting exposed almost every single game, but in some of the games, especially against the San Francisco 49ers, the D-line was able to kind of bail out that back seven. So it is what it is, but I will get into a few little things in that game that kind of caught my eye. Travis Fulgham for the Eagles. I mean, out of the blue, undrafted free agent that we picked up, has been cut multiple times already this year, picked up by the Eagles before the game last weekend, and has that game-winning touchdown against San Francisco. You know, maybe just a flash in the pan, just kind of happened. He just happened to be the one on that route. But then he comes into this game and balls out. I mean, has over 100 yards, has a touchdown. Wentz looks like, he has unbelievable rapport with him already, which is crazy to think that he's only been with the team for a couple weeks. And, he's been on the practice squad and he got called up. So, he's been with the team, but not really practicing with any of the first team at all. So the fact that he has that much rapport, he was balling out. Like I was being funny, and I tweeted during the game, is Travis Fulgham the greatest wide receiver of all time? Because it looked like it against that Steelers defense, which was a big deal. Like we haven't, as an Eagles fan base, seen a receiver look that dominant in years. It's been maybe the last time we saw something as dominant as that was Alshon Jeffrey in the 2017, the Super Bowl year, especially in the Super Bowl, because that was a big game for him with that catch. But it's been a minute since we've had a receiver look that good. And then I'll get into the guy that looked even better than Travis Fulgham, another wide receiver in that game, Chase Claypool. The dude came out, had 4 touchdowns. Just made the Eagles defense look so stupid. Made Jim Schwartz look stupid, which is becoming a theme these days, and I'm not a real big fan of it. Jim Schwartz has some lapses in his defenses that are almost just inexcusable at times. But even though Chase Claypool did look unbelievable, and the Pittsburgh offense was just okay, it wasn't anything spectacular. Really, I think the Eagles defense just did a poor job of evaluating what was going on in the game. But at the same time, I wasn't as impressed with Pittsburgh's defense as I thought I would be. The Eagles have a patchwork offensive line right now, and it's just they didn't get as much pressure as I expected them to. Maybe that's just the Eagles' patchwork O-line is just playing well. They do have a top-tier offensive line coach in Jeff Stoutland there in Philadelphia. But you would expect a little bit more out of the steel curtain, so to say. But really, the Eagles were able to move the ball pretty easily. And like I said, it was the defense for the Eagles that really gave up the game for them. So Pittsburgh comes out of this game not looking all that great, considering the Eagles haven't looked very good at all this season. So I just want to keep an eye on Pittsburgh and see how they kind of respond to some other good teams when they get into their division games, like Cleveland this next week, and then against Baltimore in the future. But really, at the end of the day, like I said, the defense gave up too much. It was really just a lack of talent on the Eagles side of the game there. I mean, it's a talent disparity between the two teams. You can literally look at them on paper and in live action and just tell it's not a very good matchup. Even though they played them tough, the Eagles are very resilient and they play hard. But at the end of the day, if you don't have the talent, it's not going to work all the time. So the next game I was able to watch, Kansas City versus the Las Vegas Raiders. This was obviously an upset. I mean, by every stretch of the imagination, everybody thought Kansas City was going to win this game. But John Gruden proved once again that he is game planning and play calling his tail off this season. This is, I feel like the first time that we're seeing the real John Gruden offense because he has the weapons now to implement it, and it looks great. I mean, he's running the ball when he doesn't want to. It's a weird thing to say, but he's running the ball at times where you'd think, this is probably not a time where he would even like to run the ball, but he's keeping that defense honest at all times. And he can afford to run the ball when he doesn't even want to, when he has a unbelievable running back in Josh Jacobs and an unbelievable O-line especially with Trent Brown coming back. I mean, that dude is literally 6'8", 380. That's what was on the stat sheets. That's how big that man is. He's unbelievable. And he just road grades people in the run game. And he's very good in pass pro too. So I just want to also get to a point here on Kansas City where it seems like 3 out of the last 5 games Kansas City has played in, the defense has really given Kansas City's offense trouble. It's almost becoming a theme where it's just making Mahomes dink and dunk it. And you can tell he's frustrated. You can tell he hates that he has to do that because that whole offense is so based around just big explosive plays, getting the ball downfield. But they've been containing that offense. And then if they get any kind of lead, then that offense gets one-dimensional. And then Mahomes has to make magic happen. And he does a lot of the times. But in this game, they really just ran out of time. Because the Raiders, like I said, were keeping the defense honest of the Chiefs and just running the ball, running the clock out. Derek Carr was making smart decisions with the ball. I mean, it was a great game plan by the Raiders. Another thing I'll point out, Henry Ruggs is an unbelievable player, unbelievable key to the Raiders' success this season. I mean, you could just tell the difference between the 2 games that Ruggs has played in. That they are just a much more explosive and better and balanced offense when he's on the field. He opens up the field for the Raiders, and that gets Darren Waller open. That gets Josh Jacobs and Jalen Richard open underneath. It does so much for that offense whenever he's out there. And then, of course, the big play with Derek Carr throwing him a bomb, and you're just not going to catch that guy whenever he's got pretty much any separation. So, and then I will also point out that Raiders defense was very disciplined. That pass rush is not the greatest right now, but they play hard and they play to the whistle. The secondary's young and they're athletic and they're fast, so they can make plays, and that's what they did on Sunday against Kansas City. Mahomes throws a pick, and that changes the complexion of the game. Even though Kansas City, struck back quickly, it was just too much to overcome at that late point in the game. And so that's pretty much what spelled the end of it for the Kansas City Chiefs. So next game we're going to get into here, New York Giants versus the Dallas Cowboys. And I'm going to go ahead and start this off with nobody ever, I'm an Eagles fan, I cannot stand the Cowboys. Literally hate them. But you never, ever want to see what happened to Dak Prescott on Sunday. I mean, that's just, I feel terrible for him. He's in pretty much a contract year. They franchise tagged him. He basically was betting on himself. And that's the trouble you get into when there's a contract dispute, man. Like, Dak didn't really have a choice because he wanted that long-term deal. The Jones family was kind of negotiating with him, and they just never found that perfect spot, that sweet spot in the negotiation. And unfortunately, literally, injury just reared its ugly head in this one, and he broke his ankle. Obviously, I mean, it was a compound fracture. You could tell immediately what was going on. It was disgusting. I had to look away from the TV. Not a big fan of stuff like that. So that's really unfortunate. I mean, this is the reason I guess you sign an Andy Dalton just in case this thing happens. But Dak's been so durable the last few years. You just don't expect something like this to happen. It was just a freak injury. Just kind of like the weight of Logan Ryan falls on his ankle there, and it's really unfortunate. It sucks. You definitely don't want to see that. And even though I'm an Eagles fan, I wish nothing but the best for Dak, and I hope he comes back and he's healthy and he can finish out his career just as he would have before. But to go back to the actual football game, I think I may have actually underestimated the Giants' defense a little bit because that Cowboys offense is super explosive and they're really tough to deal with. But the Giants' D really stepped up, and that front four, while they're not like the greatest in pass rushing or even run stuffing, they're like very balanced. It's a good little combo they have there. I mean, like the big guys like Leonard Williams, Dexter Lawrence. I mean, Marcus Golden coming off the edge. He's not much of a run stuffer, but I mean, he is a pass rushing madman. So I think I underestimated that Giants defense a little bit, and they're a lot better than I thought they would be for sure. I thought in the first game, I kind of alluded to this when they were playing the Steelers, that the run D was playing very well, but their whole defense is playing pretty decent. I mean, they really stifled that Cowboys offense for a little bit there. The Cowboys eventually were able to get a little bit of a run game going, and I think that's what the game plan was for this game, because Tyron Smith is out, Travis Frederick retired. I mean, that Cowboys O-line is a little bit depleted at this point, and they're dealing with some injuries. So I think the game plan going in for the Cowboys was to establish a run, get these new linemen firing off the ball, get some familiarity with each other in the run game, and that's exactly what they did. Zeke was out there running tough and hard like he always does, just putting his nose down and bowling over people. And that really carried them throughout this game, was just the impact of Zeke, especially after the Dak injury. Zeke really was pretty much carrying them the rest of the game. Andy Dalton did make some good plays, and that's exactly what they signed him for, was, just in this situation, he comes in, and, I mean, it's not like he's the worst quarterback of all time, like a lot of people think he is. I mean, with the Cincinnati Bengals, he made the playoffs a whole lot of times. I know they didn't do anything. They never could win a game in Cincinnati with him as QB, but I don't think all of that is on him. So the Cowboys are still going to be tough to deal with on offense. I mean, because with all the weapons they have, I mean, CeeDee Lamb is still improving with each game. Michael Gallup making that unbelievable catch at the end of that game for the Giants, or on the Giants game. And I mean, it's just, at this point, the NFC East is so up in the air. I mean, I don't know if you could call it to this point still, which is like sad to say, that like even when the Cowboys starting quarterback goes down, that you can't, definitively say, okay, this is probably the Eagles division now. That's just where we're at right now. Just all the teams in the NFC East are struggling. I mean, it is truly the NFC East this year, and that's no doubt. So next game, we're going to get into Seattle versus Vikings. So in this one, the Vikings, man, they jumped out to a quick little lead on the back of Dalvin Cook. I mean, he looked good, and it was really unfortunate that coming out of halftime, he tweaked his groin, or I think actually might have seen a little update, and it was his adductor. But he wasn't able to really get back in the game. He tried to get back in the game, and it wasn't the same, so they just sat him. Alexander Madison's a good back, so they just went with him. But at the beginning there, Seattle seemed to be a little bit out of sorts. But they were able to figure it out after that second half. And honestly, I give a little shout out here to Chris Collinsworth on the broadcast there. He kind of mentioned it, and it was really, it rang true in the end, was when Dalvin Cook hurt himself right there in the second half. Like it was almost like Seattle's like light bulb went on, like, oh, now we have a chance, like awesome, and they like immediately got back into the game. It was like they were just sluggish through the first half, and they were like, man, we can't do anything with Dalvin, we can't stop him, he's just dominating us right now. And as soon as that happened, they're like, oh, we have some life now. So I thought that was interesting that Collinsworth even pointed that out, and it really rang true throughout the rest of the game. But yeah, so of course, in the second half, Seattle, with a little pep in their step, I mean, Russ was able to figure out that Vikings defense eventually, and they got back in the game. I mean, Metcalf and him have an unbelievable connection. They're making plays left and right. I mean, Metcalf is making every single play imaginable at this point, and it's just ridiculous. He's literally forcing his way into a top 5 wide receiver conversation in all of football, literally in the first 5 games of the season, which is just unheard of. Like, I saw a tweet the other day, and it said that Metcalf is basically on pace to have, I think, 1,500 yards and 16 touchdowns this year, which is just ridiculous, man. I mean, he's going crazy. And then just the Vikings were able to actually fight back after, the Seahawks, kind of punched them in the face in the second half and got back in that game. Vikings fought back after, actually, Kirk Cousins threw a really boneheaded pick. It was a great play by KJ Wright, a one-handed interception, which, Seattle ended up scoring on that drive. But Kirk was able to do a little something, and his connection with Thielen is still great. And they were able to get in the end zone a couple times. So, I mean, I commend the Vikings for kind of fighting back there, and they really had a chance to win at the end of that game. They went for it on that 4th down, and it was controversial, like go for it, kick the field goal, go up by 8, or, go for it and essentially end the game. And they decided to go for it. They didn't get it. And, that's a decision that Mike Zimmer is just going to have to live with. But I'm not mad at that play call. It's an aggressive play call. I can't ever be mad at aggressive play calls for the most part. I mean, there's times and places, but at the same time, that was a place where I thought that was not a bad decision at all. So I'm not going to kill Zimmer for that one. They just didn't execute. Seattle made a play. It is what it is. And then Russ just had too much time, went right down the field. Metcalf making plays once again. I mean, it's just becoming, just monotonous at this point. That's the way the games are ending, is just Russ and Metcalf, just playing backyard football on people. But yeah, they go down and they win that game for the Seahawks. They continue their, routing of people, and Russ just still looking like another MVP candidate. I mean, he's in the lead right now, I'd say, probably. And right on his heels is Aaron Rodgers. It kind of stinks that Aaron Rodgers had a bye week this week, so he couldn't show off again and see what Russ did, but it is what it is. So we'll get into the next game here, which is the Los Angeles Chargers versus the New Orleans Saints. This game was interesting because right out of the gate, Herbert comes out and is firing all over the place. He looks good. I mean, his first touchdown throw to Keenan Allen was unbelievable. Just rolling right, throws an absolute missile, and just hits Keenan Allen in the end zone. Unfortunately, Keenan Allen had to leave the game shortly after with a back injury, which maybe this game's different if Keenan Allen gets to play the entire game. For me, it was kind of good because I had Keenan Allen playing against me in fantasy, and he probably would have got me an L there. But at the end of the day, the connection with Keenan Allen and Justin Herbert is coming along, and it's coming along quickly, and that is a good sign for Chargers fans. Once again, though, Charger fans, I apologize. you guys are going through it right now with the way that you guys just find ways to lose games, especially in the second half. I mean, you guys have leads and then just blow them. You're like the Falcons light right now, which is just really unfortunate. But, I mean, at least you can, put your head on the pillow at night and say, you know what, we might have lost, but we have a franchise QB, because that's what Justin Herbert is. This kid is unfazed. He's poised in the pocket. He can run. He can sling it absolutely. Just drills the ball into people's hands. He's the real deal for sure. But then let's get into some things that just concern me once again. I mean, Drew Brees once again looking shaky, trying to get the ball down the field for the Saints. I mean, really, the only reason I think the Saints get back in this game is just a very bad play calling decision from Anthony Lynn at the end of the first half. And I even tweeted this out. I was saying, man, this conservative play calling at the end of the half by the Chargers is going to come back to bite them in the rear when it comes to the end of the game. It just is. Because it was, I don't know what the time was. It was probably 2 minutes or so left, maybe a little more than 2 minutes left in the first half. And the Chargers come out and run the ball 2 straight times, and it's like 3rd and 10, and they expect Herbert to save the day once again, and he can't get it done, and they have to punt, and that is just way too much time. At this point, the Saints only had 3 points, and of course they punt. Saints go right down the field and score a touchdown, and that just gives them that momentum they needed going into halftime, the Saints, I should say. And that's the play calling that just like irks me, man. Like, because you're up a lot of points in the first half, and if you just put the pedal to the metal, put the foot on their throat and just stomp on it, you have the game. The game is won. If you go down, I think if the Chargers would have just went down and kicked a field goal, it was game. But they gave the Saints a sliver of hope. They gave Drew Brees enough time to go down there and dink and dunk his way to the end zone, and that just changed the game from then on, because the Saints got the ball back, and they were able to put together some more drives here and there. And I mean, it still wasn't very pretty by the Saints, but they figured out a way to do it because Sean Payton's an unbelievable play caller, and he's just at this point having to just deal with Drew Brees and his just lack of being able to throw the ball down the field, and it's very unfortunate to see. A lot of people calling for Jameis Winston right now, which is just crazy to think about. That's just where we're at right now. But yeah, so the Saints get back in the game, and the Chargers have the opportunity to win the game with a field goal. The guy misses the field goal, clanks it off the upright, and this cat literally trademarked the name Money Badger because his name is Badgley. His last name is Badgley. You can't trademark that nickname and then miss that kick. Come on, man. Like that's literally like right there. That's the whole advertisement. You make that kick, you keep the name. You don't make that kick, you have to relinquish that trademark. That's just the rules. I don't make them up. That's crazy. But yeah, so eventually, the Saints go back down. They ended up winning the game. It was just unfortunate. Like I said, I really think the game hinged on that really bad play calling decision by Anthony Lynn, just to run the ball twice, which nobody in the game was running the ball that well. I mean, both defenses were stuffing each other, and just that decision to not continue to be aggressive in the first half or at the end of the first half there, and at least try to go get some points on the field or points in the game, it was just really annoying to me, and I feel bad for Chargers fans. I think Anthony Lynn's an actually pretty good head coach, but like that stuff right there has to get cleared up for the Chargers to be honestly just a good team in the future, which they're like honestly going to have no choice being because Justin Herbert's so good and the weapons he has. Mike Williams making an unbelievable catch at the end of that game. I mean, that catch was stupid. This man was in triple coverage, and he said, I'm just going to out-jump every single one of you, and you can't do anything about it, and went up and got it. I mean, that's exactly what they drafted him for, that exact play right there. And he showed up in a big moment. Herbert hit him. I mean, it was a great throw, accurate as everything. So, I mean, that's pretty much all I had on LA Chargers versus Saints. And that pretty much wraps up all the recapping. I do want to get into one thing, though. This is a little something that I wanted to put into my podcast back when I first started my Twitter account, and it was kind of making my way through that. So it was last year, the Eagles were obviously injury riddled. Their receivers were terrible because they were having to go to practice squad guys, and this little old guy named Greg Ward stepped up. He is a former QB for the Houston Cougars, and he was undrafted, and he transferred into being a wide receiver when he got into the NFL. He was on the Eagles practice squad. He eventually was in the AAF when that was still a thing. He just bounced around for a little bit, and then the Eagles, when they were so injury riddled last year, brought him up, and he got up there and made plays, man. Like, it was wild. In the midst of that, Chris Long, former defensive end for the Eagles on that Super Bowl team in 2017, he has a podcast and a Twitter, obviously. And I saw where he tweeted at one point, man, people are giving Carson Wentz crap for not winning as many games as he should have this year, but look at his receiving core. And it was along the lines of, look what he's working with. And he said something that I thought was hilarious, and I thought, I got to make this a thing for my podcast. He said that Carson Wentz is working with shadow picture players, like on Madden. Like on Madden, when there's not a real player, it's just like a computer player or a guy that they don't even have, the stock photo for in Madden. It's literally just a shadow of a guy's body. I thought that was hilarious. And I was like, man, shadow picture player of the week. That's got to be a thing. And so I'm going to start it this week. The Greg Ward shadow picture player of the week this week is once again another Eagle, Travis Fulgham. Comes out of nowhere once again. Technically it's the second week he's had a big play, but this week he just dominated. So, I don't have an award for him. I don't have a trophy for him, but hey, it is a thing now. So that is what it is. But yeah, I'm just going to wrap up the pod now. I appreciate you guys listening. Follow us at iTestTakes on Twitter, on Instagram. I recently made a TikTok. Very interesting. And just, follow on YouTube, subscribe, like. We appreciate you guys listening, and we'll see you next time. Peace.